He's saying that this is a state misdemeanor which died years ago under the statute.
Yes, it did.
And that Bragg referenced 4 crimes. Now he's claiming only 3: a tax violation and or a state or federal campaign finance violation. But they have no authority to enforce the federal law.
Well, and see, that's the main point of what's going on today, because Andy McCarthy made the point. Now, Andy McCarthy is no fan of Trump on any stretch, and he is at his wit's end with what he is seeing in this courtroom. And he said today, I heard him in an interview, and I think he wrote in National Review, he said the cat is clearly out of the bag here. That the judge here is in total cahoots with Steinglass in the prosecution and with Bragg at this point. There's almost no doubt about it, because he says, listening to the prosecution's summation by Steinglass, he said they are explicitly relying on violations of the federal law as the other crime, all of a sudden, that Donald Trump was allegedly concealing by causing his business records to be falsified. And he says it's impossible to draw any other conclusion other than the Manhattan District Attorney, Alvin Bragg, knew that as a state prosecutor, his enforcement of federal law would be incredibly controversial since he has no such authority. And why we've gone this whole trial, and we keep saying, and others keep saying, what's the other crime? What's the other crime? What's the other crime? Why can't Brad Smith, the federal elections guy, why can't he testify? Why is it the judge doesn't want him anywhere near the courtroom? And now all of a sudden in the summation, the prosecution is relying on all of these federal election things after the election guy wasn't allowed to even prosecute, wasn't even allowed to testify. They've never been able to lay out a secondary crime, which of course is the federal elections crime. That's what brings this to a that where they can copy and paste 34 times.
Yeah, and Todd Blanche was pretty good, and he simplified it, and he said if they wanted to hide this, they wrote a 1099 out and disclosed this to the IRS. It wasn't like they were hiding the payments.
Well, besides that, the federal agencies that would have investigated this did.
Right, and they
didn't want to take the case. Alvin Bragg is making up his own version of federal law. The judge is in cahoots with them, not allowing them to go through this whole trial, not make any notion or put on the record or in the damn indictment what the other crime is. He's let them go this whole time. And now in closing arguments, that's all they're relying on to try to make this case is the FECA violation. I mean, it's just crazy that he's letting them do this in summation. Basically, a guy keeps going, well, Trump violated federal election law. That's been no part of the whole case the whole time. They haven't been able to talk about it. He has no authority to try to prove it. They didn't allow the defense's expert witness in that, who would have come up there and said no, not even to testify. And then this is the focus of their summation for the prosecution.
Damon Turk.
So what? I'm sorry, David. Yeah. What else can you draw from that other than Bragg and the judge are in cahoots?
And Turley also pointed out that Merchan has ruled the jury does not have to agree on what the crime is. The jury could split it into 3 groups of 4 on which 3 crimes were being concealed, and Merchan will still treat it as a unanimous verdict.
Yeah, so that's the craziest. That's the craziest thing. So it's like only 4 people agreed that he did this, 4 people agreed that he did this, and 4 people agreed that he did this. All those in any other case in the world ever would be dismissed because it's got to be at least in this country it would be dismissed. You got to have 12. It's not 4 and then 4 over here and then 4 over there and you add them up. It's not like you add up stuff. It's like, oh, look how much I have. Oh my goodness, I have 12 guilty verdicts. You could have 87 different crimes and have 12 guilty verdicts and be like, well, you're guilty of everything.
Yeah. They could have a verdict.
According to them.
Yeah.
This is insanity. This is third world banana republic justice on display in New York City for everybody to see